Hello there, Christopher here. A quick special request before we dive into this episode. We've been producing the Musicality podcast for about 6 months now, and I really want to know, what have been your favourite episodes? If you've been listening since the beginning, then a big thank you to you. And you'll know that we've had a real variety of guests on the show, and topics too. To help us make sure that the show is as useful and enjoyable as possible for you in future, I want to hear from you, our listeners, about what's been the best so far. To share your favourite, what I'd like you to do is please post a review of the podcast. You'll find easy instructions at musicalitypodcast.com/review. And I'd love for you to write anything you like about the show in general, and then pick out one favourite episode and share what made that one top of the list for you. A big thank you in advance for taking just a few minutes to do this, especially if you don't think of yourself as someone who normally writes reviews or posts things online. It means a huge amount to us here on the team when we see a new review come in, and it really helps the show to reach more people like you. And of course, it'll help us plan better and better episodes for you in the future. Thanks again, and I look forward to hearing about your favourites so far.
Ever wondered why some people seem to have a gift for music? Have you ever wished that you could play by ear, sing in tune, improvise and jam? You're in the right place. Time to turn those wishes into reality. Welcome to the Musicality Podcast with your host, Christopher Sutton.
If you listened to our recent interview with Jimmy Rotherham of Feversham Primary Academy, I'm sure that you, like me, went away feeling freshly inspired about how wonderful music can be, and all the things that learning music can do for you, even beyond the core enjoyment of music learning itself. So I wanted to use this episode to talk a bit about those benefits of learning music. Now, this is well-trodden ground. If you look around, you'll find no shortage of scientific research and reports about the benefits of learning music. All the facts and figures about what's enhanced, improved, and extended. Everything from social confidence to reading ability to mental acuity to collaboration skills. You name it, there's probably a study showing that learning music helps you do it better. And as a listener to this podcast, the chances are you're already learning music. Maybe you have been for years. Or perhaps you're just considering it, and listening to this podcast is encouraging you to think you might be more musical than you imagined. Either way, you probably don't need convincing that learning music is a good thing. But maybe you're a parent or a teacher, and you want to help persuade your school to increase its music education provision, like Jimmy's school has shown can be so effective. Or maybe you want to help persuade your children, or your siblings, or parents, or friends to give music a try, and just telling them how great it will be doesn't seem to be doing the trick. Or maybe you're learning music yourself, but the day-to-day practice is causing frustration, and you could use a fresh reminder of all the non-musical reasons to persist, and get you through this temporary lull in musical enthusiasm. Whatever the case may be, you might be needing a bit of ammunition to support your claims that learning music is so beneficial. And rather than me just reeling off a list of the dozens of specific benefits music has, I thought I'd pick out a few online resources that do this well, and then just share a few highlights to give you the taste. So I'm going to discuss one infographic about music education for young people, one article about the brain benefits of learning an instrument, and a blog post about learning music after the age of 50. I'll put links to the full posts in the show notes for this episode, where you can find all of the facts and figures in detail. So we'll start off with an epic infographic put together by the University of Florida about the many benefits of music education. You can check out the full post, which we'll link to in the show notes, for all the figures and references, but in short, it covers everything from improved reading skills, stronger brain activity for spoken language, increased vocabulary and verbal intelligence, enhanced fine motor skills, increased self-esteem, improved attention, higher test scores in maths, English, and science, higher SAT scores, higher GPA, higher likelihood of attending college and graduating. I love that it also points out that all the evidence suggests that music education could be a powerful way to help low-income students and close the achievement gap, which of course matches up well with the transformation demonstrated at Feversham Primary Academy in the UK. And if this infographic wasn't enough, I'm also going to link to a great post from the National Association for Music Education in the US, which lists 20 important benefits of music in schools. So there's little doubt that adding music to a child's education has a wide array of powerful benefits. What about adults? Our second post is actually one from the Musical U website called 9 Ways Learning an Instrument Strengthens Your Brain. The first thing to pick up on is that playing an instrument reduces stress and depression. This one won't be a surprise to anyone who's come home at the end of a long day and just delighted in picking up their instrument and spending some time in music making. There are plenty of studies showing that playing, or even just listening to music, can have a big positive effect on mood and our ability to combat the stress of modern life. The second thing is musical training strengthens the brain's executive function. Your brain relies on its executive function for a variety of critical things, including processing and retaining information, controlling behavior, making appropriate choices, solving problems, and more. This means that if you strengthen your executive function, you increase your ability to live productively. And research has shown that musical training improves and strengthens executive function in both children and adults. So that cliche of the lazy musical artist struggling with the practicalities of daily life is nonsense. Musicians are more effective in how they interact with the world than those without musical training. The third thing that jumped out at me in this one was that trained musicians can process multiple things at once. Anyone who's learned to play an instrument from written music will know you need to learn to process visual information as you look at the sheet music, auditory information as you hear the sounds you're making, physical information as you play the instrument, and more. This leads to superior multisensory skills, meaning your ability to process multiple sensory experiences at once. Although the study mentioned here was specifically about sensory information, I think it's worth also noting the more general point that music helps you juggle mentally a variety of things simultaneously. For example, playing 2 independent parts with your 2 hands on piano and hearing how they relate, or staying aware of the other musical parts in a band or a choir while you're performing. Even the simple act of tapping your foot to the beat while playing a rhythm requires a kind of coordinated multitasking. The third post I wanted to share with you is one from the website 60andme.com about the benefits of learning a musical instrument after the age of 50. Now, pretty much all the benefits of music that we're talking about apply throughout life, but there were a couple of points in this post specifically about the impact of music to adults later in life, which I thought were interesting. First of all, it's a great way to make friends. This is often mentioned when talking about the benefits of music later in life, and with good reason. Isolation can be a real risk for people when they retire and leave the working world. And frankly, even for someone like myself in my 30s, I've seen how it becomes increasingly harder to meet new people and make new friends. Music gives you an excuse and an avenue to meet a whole new crowd of people. By joining a choir or a ukulele group, for example, or even just taking solo instrument lessons and connecting with your teacher's other adult students, there are plenty of opportunities to get out, get to know your fellow musicians, and form new bonds. Of course, if you're new to music, that might be intimidating, but that leads on to the other benefit I wanted to pick up on from this article. Music builds self-esteem. The article points out that learning an instrument is something you can begin doing from the comfort of your own home, making it very low pressure to get started. This was something I was really conscious of when we were developing our Sing True app, for example. People who think they can't sing are so self-conscious about the act of even trying to sing. It was essential that we found a way for them to take those first steps without anyone judging them or there being any risk of embarrassment. If you have a friendly and supportive teacher, or you make a start by teaching yourself some basics with online resources, you can get that same no-pressure environment to start from. From there, each step forwards can be a real self-esteem booster. We've seen this in Musical U, where we have lots of members who are later in life and often coming to music for the first time in retirement, discovering that they can actually develop their ear for music after decades of thinking it was beyond them, can be a huge confidence booster and opens up fresh optimism about what the future might hold. One other benefit mentioned in this article is that of learning music for brain health. And I'm going to link in the show notes to a dedicated article from Age UK about the specific benefits of music for those suffering from dementia. That's moving into the whole fascinating area of music therapy rather than simply learning music. But I wanted to mention it because it is such an important part of how music education activities can be of such benefit later in life. So that was a quick whirlwind tour of some of the non-musical benefits of music education. I hope that the next time your enthusiasm is at a bit of a lull, or you're talking to someone about the benefits and want some facts and figures to back up all the wonderful things you're saying about music, this episode will help point you to some great resources to help.
Thank you for listening to the Musicality Podcast. This episode has ended, but your musical journey continues. Head over to musicalitypodcast.com, where you will find the links and resources mentioned in this episode, as well as bonus content exclusive for podcast listeners. That's musicalitypodcast.com.